Yeah, so my mother raised me, as law enforcement will tell you themselves, from watching her for more than 25 years of the past, since I was an 11-year-old child, that my mother never uttered one word considered bad towards law enforcement at all. She always taught me to respect them fully. Yeah, she still treats me like a child, but that's how she raised me, and that's how I am. It's just, I didn't mean any disrespect. I just felt like stimulating my penis was not the job of females in law enforcement, especially when it starts on the night of June 7th, right after the artificial intelligence report for May 10 Savant test comes out. I don't want people to try to use this against me by making it look like I'm disrespecting them. I'm not in any way, shape, or form. But that being said, I have to say that there were so a lot of people found out about my brain savant before I even told them about it. A lot of them were school teachers and things of that sort of nature. Yeah, people have to understand that not everyone likes someone sexually. So if my elementary school teacher wanted to meet me, she just wanted to say hi, basically. Invite me for dinner, have me meet her son, whom I haven't seen since I was in the 5th grade. Obviously, these kinds of things would only happen after I would get my first work done, because I would have too low of a self-esteem to go anywhere before then, anywhere at all. And everyone who knows me knows that. That's just how people who lack social skills are. In case you wanted to know, copy me in that respect. Well, now you know. People that lack social skills usually get their things done before they feel like they could show face in society. Yeah. So obviously, if my elementary school teacher wanted to see me, she just wanted to invite me over for dinner. Have me meet her husband, whom I haven't seen in 25 years, and her son, whom I haven't seen in 25 years, and maybe ask me how I got my first work done, which would obviously be zero tolerance coffee. Now, artificial intelligence has already told everyone what my speed for absorption is. Pretty much, it's the exact same as Rain Man, Kim Peek. The only difference is my brain savant powers increase over time, as was proven mid-May 2023. After that, November 14th, 2025, May 10th, 2026, and yeah. So my brain savant powers, basically, they increase over time, and that's the thing about them. That's the only difference between me and the other brain savants, and also the fact that a lot of the brain savants are not fully functioning members of society like how I am. And so, yeah, and once again, no disrespect intended towards anyone in law enforcement. I think law enforcement is absolutely amazing. They're doing a great job, and since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity in life, all I've done is work hard in my life, and my mother taught me everything. She taught me the best things in life, and I'm not the kind of person who would disrespect law enforcement. Yeah, I just thought that as far as the females in law enforcement are concerned, I think some improvement could be made. The men in law enforcement, on the other hand, are a totally different category, in my opinion. So I will get to that in a second. You will see exactly what I mean by that when I tell you in a second. No disrespect towards the other men. I'll tell you in a second what I mean by that. So basically, if my elementary school teacher wanted to see me after hearing about my brain savant, it's incredibly nice thing to know that someone has the same abilities as Rain Man Kim Peek, which is not very common. Extremely rare to have, obviously. And if you have innovation and focusing along with that, well, that's even better. If one of your own students, well, why wouldn't you want them over to your house for dinner so you can introduce them to your husband, whom he hasn't seen for a while, and your son, whom he hasn't seen for a while? And that was the entire intent of someone like my elementary school teacher, to invite me over to her house. Obviously, being a human being, well, the way that I am, I wouldn't go to someone's house till I get my first work done, obviously, because that's just how I am. I need to get my zero tolerance coffee done, and then I'd be feeling like I could show my face in society and go to people's houses and meet them for dinner. So basically, one of the people that really wanted to see me, obviously, school teachers, my elementary school teacher. And so basically, yeah, law enforcement had a habit of running after people for sex. Not everyone is the same, and that does not mean that the others are bad. What I'm trying to say is, when someone wants to see me, it doesn't have to be sexual. And I did not even mean to say it that way. What I'm trying to say is, most people that want to see me are only trying to meet me because they haven't met me for a long time, and they've heard things about me that are very rare and not common for a normal human being to have. And they've heard it after hearing about artificial intelligence, being able to scan my brain through, and then hearing the entire story about how I knew about it from before and I hid it and I told everyone about it after the report came out and after law enforcement had already told everyone about it. What I said fully matched with what artificial intelligence said about my brain savant without anyone telling me what the report said, meaning that unless I was psychic, I had to be telling the truth. So pretty much when people hear this story and everything, they get fascinated being a human being. If I was a school teacher and one of my students from my school ended up like that, whether she would be a female, I would still invite her over to my house. Be like, can you please come over when either before or after you get your thing done? Obviously, her being a student, she would obviously want to come after she gets her thing done, so she has something to talk about over dinner. You don't want to talk about nothing over dinner, right? So obviously that would be the case. So if I was a school teacher, that would go exactly the same, whether she would be a female or a male. Obviously the student would not want to come to my house out of embarrassment till they get their thing done, so that they have something to talk about with me at dinner. So that's exactly what happened. And law enforcement being like themselves, now I will tell you exactly what I meant when I said that law enforcement is a totally different category. Law enforcement being themselves try to get themselves and Janan to go sleep with my elementary school teachers. Yes. And then after getting continuously rejected by her, Janan would keep trying to go after her. And he would just be like, why not? Why can't you sleep with me? For one, it is incredibly embarrassing and humiliating that someone in my family would be doing something like this. And the other thing is, law enforcement's not supposed to be doing this. It would be incredibly humiliating if someone like that said to Janan, I'm going to have to talk to your mother about this. Why? Because she is his mother's age. And that is incredibly disgusting, humiliating, embarrassing thing to do, and kind of answer to hear from a woman who's supposed to be your mother's age to tell you that you are acting like a sex addict, begging her for sex, and she's having to talk to your mother about this. Humiliating for me. Something I would have to take out of my mind when I go to her house for dinner after get my zero tolerance coffee done, which I will get done in a month, by the way. If what I said is true and I'm not psychic enough to predict what artificial intelligence has said about my brain savant, and if what it has said about my brain savant is true, then I will get my zero tolerance done in 1 month. If I could do Aaron Ball's medicinal chemistry textbook of more than 1,000 pages in less than a day's time, then you can rest assured will get zero tolerance coffee done in 30 days time. Since things of that sort are already out there in the world right now, they're just a different type. And I have a different idea to get that done. What I mean by that, there are certain drugs like liquid MDMA that have resonating structure, giving it the ability to have zero tolerance. My idea for creating zero tolerance is totally different by having, by changing the functional group slightly, or in every one of those compounds for what I need to work on. That is my idea. that is the idea I put in 2 days before I went to Russia. And I told everyone that my brain savant powers in Russia in 25 days will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is definite done for me and person of my abilities. I thought that my brain savant would be freed as soon as I would get to Russia. Excuse me. And law enforcement thought the same thing, mainly because I know for a fact they thought that because they told everyone on my way there, including the air hostess at the Turkish airline, the lady working at the Turkish airport ticket counter. She even knew about it. So basically, it was just kind of like, yeah, it was like a video of President Putin. It was like on my YouTube. It was just like him going like that, and I just thought it was kind of cool because I thought it was like a message, like, come over to Russia, oh, stop this, you can do your brain savant over here all you want. So yeah, what can I say? That's pretty much, we both saw it, and I got really excited, and I started putting the sofa on the main door, make sure that they couldn't steal my passport or something. And I told the Russian consulate, don't mail my passport back. I'm going to come back to get it. And I even told them, I was like, you're not going to give it to someone else, right? That's how paranoid I was after seeing that. They just looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, your passport has your picture on there. We're going to check it before giving it. I was like, all right, well, I just wanted to be sure. Yeah, what can I say? Well, anyways, I was a little paranoid. What can I say? I was really close to proving my point, and law enforcement, and I knew everything about it, And so, yeah. So my point being that it's incredibly humiliating that someone like Junaid would be begging a woman who would be my elementary school teacher for sex, who's supposed to be his mother's age, when all she wanted to do was invite me over to dinner after I would get my first work done, which would be zero tolerance coffee, to ask me how I got it done and stuff like that. That was it. Okay, that was it. And Junaid kept begging her for sex, or to be able to sleep with her. Incredibly humiliating. And I'm sure she said, I'm going to have to talk to your mother about this, because she is his mother's age, which is incredibly embarrassing and humiliating. The thing I had to let everyone know about is the fact that Junaid is obviously not going to show up to court anymore to argue against me, mainly because he's broken my car, my charging outlet, and my Fire Stick for my TV, out of anger that these girls were not sleeping with him. So much for lacking social skills. A lot of autistic people are going to take offense to this. They're just going to be like, wait a minute, I can't do this. I don't think I could fight this hard to want to socialize with people. Like, well, first of all, most autistic people don't want to socialize with people because since early childhood, it's just like most of us would be attracted towards things that, it would just not be something social. It wouldn't give us the same amount of pleasure. So on January 20th, 2026, after much argument, this was something law enforcement had the technology to be able to test. And so they tested it out. And when they tested it out, they found out that I was telling the truth all along. That when I was a child, my mother would turn off the TV at night, but from morning till night, I would just stare into the History Channel logo. And at nighttime, my mother would turn off the TV and tell me to go to sleep. And yeah, the next day, the same exact thing would happen again. And it was fully proven on January 20th, 2026, after they kept arguing, saying that it wasn't how I said it was. And their arguments, I found incredibly hilarious. One of the things that they said was that they said that I meditated for 3 days one time, due to which I developed the brain savant. And I wanted to tell the people in law enforcement who came up with this theory, read a book, please. For God's sakes, read a book for once. Your IQ is too low for you to be talking out in the open like this. Like this is like, it's such a random thing thought to make out. And it's like, you're born with this. You're born with this. Brain savants like either develop over time or just how it is when you're a child. And I gotta say, if it evolves, it becomes extremely powerful, and it's more than one capability, which I find very fascinating, and I love it. And it increases over time as well if it evolves. On the Artificial Intelligence Report, August 9, 2022, instantaneous photographic memory, focusing, and innovation, all for 6 hours of testing. Law enforcement did not release the results for 8 months till May 2023. Excuse me. April 22nd, 2025. These ears that are locked right now, all the way on the back of my head, my brain, instead of being like this, was like this. Unlocked, giving me superhuman powers, going like zing, 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 increasing the powers hundreds of times more than how it was on the night of August 9, 2022 itself. June 5th, 2025, energy drinks increased the power on a locked brain savant, so much so that I was able to touch it that much. So my ears were able to go back enough so that it wasn't like this, like April 22nd, but it was able to touch, and it was still extremely powerful, and it went zing, 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 and it was still pretty powerful. So basically, yeah, November 14th, 2025, increased in power over time, despite them not locking it up completely, not letting me stare into textbooks anymore after July 1st, 2023, even though that is my natural habitat, and that's what I did from October 2019 till July 1st, 2023. May 10th, 2026, same thing. The results will show that, yeah, that basically powers increase over time and things of that certain nature. Now, yeah,